We chose the house because it had a very big ballroom, and drums sounded very wonderful in there. And it was in a valley that was, I don't know if soporific's the right word, but when you got there, I don't know what the word is, but when you got there, you sort of sat down and you couldn't leave. Sort of time basically was sort of standing still, and you couldn't quite work out where you were and how you were going to get out. Any other reasons? Anyone?
Well, it's also largely it's the antithesis of the kind of the usual studio environment we've done albums in previously, and it's just loads of rooms. We're like when we arrived, it was like when kids arrive in big houses and run from room to room. It was kind of similar to that for most of the stay, and we were able to also set up drums upstairs. There were lots of rooms to utilise, so it was pretty exciting.
Around the time of recording, nothing much actually. I just tried to, well, as we all did, we just tried to cut out any music really from around us. I think rhythmically, that's probably one of the strongest influences for like, say, Airbag would have been something like DJ Shadow. It was more like his approach though, just taking a lot of drumming, cutting it up and making a loop that way, just rather than just having this one monotonous pattern going through.
It was a really difficult thing to get used to for quite a while, because it started off. We'd done production stuff before with Nigel, the guy that we were using, and it was always really, really, really quick. Just sort of, oh God, we've got 3 hours to do talk show host, we've got 5 hours to do Lucky, and because of that, everyone was extremely focused, and all decision making was like, right, we have to do this right now, and that's it. And with this, it started with the total opposite extreme. It was like, I don't know, what do you think? I don't know, what do you think? I don't know, what do you think? And it sort of, we discovered that we had to push ourselves and, and force ourselves into making decisions and committing yourself. That's why, actually on the credits to the album, I didn't put produced by, I just put committed to tape, because that was what it was. It wasn't like production, it was like, okay, we're going to have to commit ourselves now at some point. So it was a very difficult thing to learn. It was, having never really taken the rap before.
Not so much. The first part of the recording, the 2 sessions in the house and Bath it was just literally putting stuff on tape and doing different versions. And we just before Christmas, we realised that if we wanted to have an album out in the summer of this year, we had to start making decisions. We had to commit ourselves to takes, because we had no surprises. We had 10, 15 reels with endless different versions of it. So we had to. The first part was just kind of doing what we felt was right and doing what we wanted to do, and then we had to start making decisions. And it's hard, We had to we had to be quite fairly thorough. We got a whiteboard with marker pens and wrote down the songs. And kind of, it's like a sort of, at Christmas, it was like our Christmas campaign for a week, and we've got these songs. Which are we going to, not do? So it was. We had to make those decisions for ourselves, as opposed to a producer kind of leaning in and saying, I think we should be doing this, boys,
I don't think there wasn't sort of. It became evident when we had to. When we said, right, we've got to, basically, okay, we've got to get together. We've got to get this sorted out. As soon as that was said, we wrote down all the ones that we were into, and discovered that there was just a natural flow, and it was going to be. We'd actually done all the work, and there was this overall sound, which was not. It was there. We'd done it. All we had to do was repair the loose ends, and that was an incredibly exciting day, because it started off with Johnny coming and saying, "Look, I'm really bored with this. We're going to have to sort it out, because." We can't do a Stone Roses, and but we had actually done all the hard work, so it was very exciting.
But it's peculiar because we weren't actually tinkering with one recording of each song. We were just hurriedly recording one version and then not being convinced a few weeks later and recording another version of the same song before eventually usually going back to the very first recording. So it was a bit of a full circle, really.
What did we do every evening? We'd have what you would call listening sessions, and they'd be suitably aided by whatever stimulants were to hand at the time, and it was good. I mean, Tom's spoken about how we try not to listen to other people's music, and a lot of people do this. I think Michael Stipe from REM, when he's doing music with REM, he tries not to listen to music, but we did actually listen to some stuff on the first night. The gear was set up in this beautiful old library. We listened to Underworld. Was it the first Underworld album?
First, yeah.
Miles Davis.
Miles Davis, Magical Mystery Tour. I mean,
And
London
actually,
Calling.
those 3 albums would be
yeah,
quite indicative, wouldn't they?
yeah. I mean, on the song Paranoid Android, the way that Tom sings the middle section. Which is like my favourite part of the song. It's the structure. It just reminded me of the first night of recording when we were listening to this track, Underworld track, with the layered vocals. So, I mean, I think that's the one. I think that there's the fact that there's still a love of music, and different kinds of music amongst all of us is I think a hopeful sign.
Many.
Actually. Yeah, I mean, there was a very strong. It all sounds a bit Led Zeppelin, a bit Spinal Tap, but there was. I mean, who cares? There was a very strong presence in the house, but it wasn't. I don't think it was nasty, but it wasn't exactly welcoming. It wasn't pleased to see us. Sort of. I mean, if it was just that, then it would be a shame. I hope it wasn't just 2 fingers.
I think it was more of an a way into the album really for people. It was like the most representative track. It just did give you these like all the elements that you would actually find on the album.
The thing with Paranoid was while we were working on the record, it was the one that it was the first one that when we had a copy of it, we'd like go to parties with friends of ours and say, and they'd been asking us for months, saying, so look, can we hear any of it? And they're like, we're like, no. And then the first thing I played to people sort of generally was that one, just because it felt really good to do that, regardless of whether it could be seen as sort of bloody minded or we're trying to be weird, because I think if we were trying to be weird, we could have been a lot more successfully weird. It was just a song that happened to be quite long and has these different sections in, but it really, it was a really successful experiment, and that's what made us so happy. We actually recorded all 4 sections independently and had to put them together, and it was, it was all a nightmare. We just had no idea whether it was going to work. I mean, the reason it sums up the album is because it spanned the entire length of the album to do in different bits. It was like a real mammoth task, which none of us, I think, genuinely expected to work. And we had a hell of a party when it did work, the night that we put it together. So yes.
And all these things are so random and arbitrary. You should know that the way that our producer Nigel Godrich edited it together. He just flew it in. There's no perfect timing on a computer. It's just a bit of tape on a tape machine, and I think it should go in here, the middle section, and it just was perfect.
He kept saying, so is it all right here? And we go, yeah.
Yeah, we were like drinking and party
behind him, poor chap.
Yeah.
There weren't many that actually weren't on the album, to be honest. I mean, we rehearsed up quite a few songs, but they just seemed to. It was very strange, we cut it down to, I think it was like, there were 14 songs, and 2 of them Polyethylene and A Reminder on the B-sides. So it was quite easy. But I was interested by what you said about the feel thing, that I think it was one of the things about this album is that, we have been a band for 12 years now. And you get to a stage when you've been playing with the same 5 people where there's a kind of, quite a few of these takes are live, and they're the best versions that we can possibly do of a song. And that's what marks this album from, say, the Bends. The Bends were great versions, but when we were out on the road, and with Pablo Honey, certainly, we do much better versions. But with this album, it's like kind of like 12 years of kind of learning your instrument and learning your role within the band and kind of like coming together. And it's that's for me personally what I'm really happy about the album, is that whole thing of like that feel that you get. And it's only because, you know, we've had the luxury of being able to play as a band for 12 years, you know.
The danger with it was that when we did the live versions, so when you start to actually sit down and analyse them, you'd really pick them apart, you know, because when people play together, it is really random, and there's all these faults, and as soon as you start seeing the faults, you're doomed, you know. That was the like a major issue all the way through the recording process, was like, oh no, you know, you're just constantly staring at the black hole of anal analysis, you know, all the way through, because we had no producer doing it. Yeah, it felt like, I mean, I think that we learnt like a lot more than we think we have, because we, you know, to sort of go out and do a record on your own terms like that just straight off is a pretty tough thing to do, and it felt like at the end of it that yes, it was the first establishment of that. I mean, like when we first started, I used to go around to Johnny and Cozzy's house, and Johnny had a 4-track, and we'd just sit down and you know, if something didn't happen that day, then that was fine. It wasn't an issue, you know, and that sort of like, because no one was listening, and there was no, you know, it was just in Johnny's bedroom, you know, it wasn't a big deal. And I always wanted to get back to that. I mean, obviously it was never ideal, and the stuff we were doing was pretty random, but there's that sense of when you were actually working, you have to have that level of not being aware of reactions, or not caring about whether you... There's this quote from Tom Waits where he talks about how he records nowadays. I mean, Tom Waits is a man who's been recording, I don't know, 25 years or something crazy. And he does it all, you know, it's all usually produced by him now. And he like calls up the whoever he wants to play that day, and they go down the bottom of his shed. He's got the shed at the bottom of his garden or something. And they go and they set up, they start working. If nothing's happening, then they stop and they go home. You know, he goes back and that's it. And that's the end of the day, you know, and there's no big deal. And this is what he does. It's like, if you were a painter, that's what you do, you know. The fact that you're in a band, it makes it much harder because, you know, expensive studios are being paid for and blah, 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 blah. And we basically we'd always had a problem with that. So this was a working towards establishing that mode of thinking, you know.
Yeah, it's peculiar that we had, with the bands with our last album, we'd record fairly bad versions of the songs at first, and they'd get better and better. And this one, this album, we tended to start sort of fairly well, but maybe we still had a bit of Ben's mentality and thought, well, we've got to do it again to make it better. But I think even by then we did the Lucky song for the Help album in 4 or 5 hours with the same engineer helping us. And that was the blueprint for the album, really. We just carried on like that.
High points. Gosh, that's a question. I suppose beginning work on the beginning of Paranoid Android, when we got this percussion group in called the Conga 4. Unfortunately, the guy playing the clays was so drunk he
was rubbish, wasn't he?
He was sacked.
Or high points. Oh, probably the slow let down section of rain down section of Paranoid Android, our first single. I like that. Sounds like Morricone or something. Good film music. Meant to anyway.
I think one of my high points is on a B-side. It's we did this song called Reminder. It's a B-side of Paranoid Android. And we played it 5 times. We deliberately didn't play it, and we just didn't know how it started, and put it down on tape. And we came in. I remember that we all came in that evening going, "Did we actually do that?" You know. So that was, you know, and the log fire was lit, and it was autumn, and great food.
I think Climbing Up the Walls, actually, for me, was one of the highlights. I mean, it's a song that we'd played quite a lot live, so I mean, we knew our way around it. But when we actually went into the studio, you know, we came to it with different attitude. I think new sounds, and something for me. It just actually opened up the album. Suddenly, the album was starting to make sense, and it wasn't all these disparate elements. So that was an exciting time for me.
My favourite moment has got to be I went to sleep one night in a particularly black frame of mind, and I think the others were all down a bottle of vodka or something, and I went off and started working on Paranoid Android, and all the way through the night, all I had was the kick drum, because I was sleeping above the control room, and they were making a tape loop of the drum pattern, and all I had all night was just bum 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 all night, constantly, all night long, and I was like, I was going crazy.
It could have been the speaker we had just.
Yeah, it could have been
your
that.
bedroom floor.
Anyway, but the next morning I got up and they'd just done this most amazing thing, and it was brilliant, and I wasn't there, and it felt great just to walk in and just sang my bit, and all the work was done, and it felt really, really wonderful. So I mean, that's why I was really pleased when Paranoid was the first single, because it just reminds me of, it's that whole thing of it'll be alright in the morning, and that was exactly that.
No, that was a computer that did the work. Device. It's just a very simple and small computer program that puts the typed word into the spoken word.
I thought that on this record I was very into. I mean, I think that each sort of vocal on the record sounds like a different person anyway, and that was one of the persons involved. And the reason I picked up on it was just the way that it mispronounces stuff. It was very, very musical, and yet at the same time it mispronounces, yet has this complete emotionless to the voice. But it's saying these things that are extremely emotionally charged and upsetting in a completely neutral, cash point sort of a way, which I thought was really powerful. You can't really. It's a really difficult thing to hear anybody's opinion. I find it really, really confusing, because it's a very fine balance anyway that you have to maintain, and it's very easy to break it. It's just one of those things. I think that I'm oversensitive to it while we're working on it anyway. I don't think the others are, but it's just sort of a necessary form of self-defense, because it's weird. I mean, basically the bottom line is everybody has a different picture on the work that you do, including yourselves. And if you upset the balance slightly, then it's very obvious all the time. It's just sort of sacred, basically. You have to.
I think for us, I mean, this album was the first time that we'd actually cut ourselves off from that kind of attitude. I mean, I think during Pablo Honey and The Bend, especially Pablo Honey, we were very much aware of it, and The Bend only really started happening as an album when we started listening just to ourselves. So yeah, you just have to focus back in on your own responses to the album.
The day I get really excited is when we go up to Manchester. Every time we play up in Manchester, the office always calls Man U players' office or whatever and says, look, there are 20 free tickets there, come down if you want, and none of them ever turn up. So if we kind of transmogrify into some kind of like slick soul outfit, then maybe a few of the players might come along, but that would be really cool.
Yeah, we're really looking forward to it, and we just spent the last 2 weeks rehearsing in our rehearsal room, where we recorded about 4 or 5 of the songs on the album, and it's going to be great, and I think all of us can't wait for it. Actually,
it's a way of reclaiming it after listening to endless hours of mixing and stuff. It's a way of reclaiming it every night, for yourself, because ultimately the tape of it is now somebody else's in someone else's hands, and this is our way of getting back to where it is we're supposed to be.
Actually, it's sort of, I get a bit of the, I remember when the Lars album finally came out all those years ago, and I get the similar kind of paranoia that they got, which is, I don't remember playing that or recording this or where those sounds came from. But that's kind of a good thing. We sort of did so much and did it so quickly that you hear melodies and chords that you don't remember actually putting down, and it's kind of the combination of two sounds making something else. So it's quite weird like that.
The interesting for us will be like trying to mix some of the material up with the bends, and I think it has been. When we started rehearsing 2.5 weeks, we thought we'd need like 2 months to rehearse, and we were like, "There's no way that we're going to be able to get this on the road and up." And in 2.5 weeks, we've covered a lot, and it's going to be so diverse as well, and the sounds and everything. There'll be a lot more sounds, and I just hope that we can. The first versions of like Exit Music, there was Tom very loud and the drums very loud, and Cos, me and Johnny turned down really low because we were like trying to remember the parts, and it was like, can you turn yourselves up? No, it's fine, I can hear it fine.
There was also a strange feeling that I think quite a few people in the band felt when we started running through songs from the bends, and it felt like being in a slightly dodgy Radiohead covers album band, you know. It was sort of, you know, it was very strange playing these songs that obviously we knew really well, but we hadn't played for like nearly, a year and a half, 2 years? A year, whatever. And it was like, you know, being in a covers band. It was very strange. Tom wrote out a structure of a song called Talk Show Host, which a part of the music is used on the new film, not the old film, Romeo and Juliet. And we'd never actually played it live before, I don't think. No. And it's a B-side to a song called Street Spirit from last year, and we worked it out live in the rehearsal studio, and it was cool. Great. I mean, it's a very dramatic thing. I mean, it's got lots of stops and pauses in it. I remember when we were mixing it, and Tom was pressing the cut button on the drum.
Bluffer.
Just like get rid of the drums there and like punch them back in, and but it's great, you know.
It's all changed now. We've started playing this stuff live. I think Airbag for me at the moment, because the stuff that's on the album is a loop, and actually taking it back and turning it back into a living, breathing drum part is very exciting for me.
I think my favourite track is probably No Surprises at the moment. It's one of those. It's the reason I like it so much is because there was like a mood that was when we were rehearsing. We talked about it, and I think it's actually, funnily enough, it's one of the few songs that we talked about and had an idea and actually sounds like that, you know. So I like it a lot.
Favourite song at the moment is Exit Music. No, Parent. No, sort of Exit Music probably. Different Tomorrow.
The Tourist for my favourite. I think it's a wonderful song. It's Nigel is our producer's favourite song, and we hummed and hawed, and I think he's right. It's very good.
My favourite track on the album is we're Climbing Up the Walls actually at the moment. Is my favourite because every time I hear it, it doesn't sound anything like us. And it just sounds like it's come from somewhere completely different, and that's cool, and that's what recording should be about for me. Yeah. The thing about, I mean, hopefully what we'll do is, hopefully what we'll be doing is making a complete set of short films to go with each song. Short film stroke video promo. But definitely lots of them won't be promos because we won't be in them. But the idea, it was just it's just sort of irresistible really, especially with tracks like, you know, The Tourist and Exit Music, and but it's going to be completely random, you know. I think I've sort of become aware of that for the first time on this record, where it's when you sort of like first listen to it as a thing, it's like it's too much to take in one go. and then gradually each bit comes out. Each song is sort of, if you play it in isolation, it's a lot easier to stomach in first go, but then that's not good enough either. You know, it's kind of a bit of both. I just think that I can't. There's sort of each song is sort of done as a song rather than done as an album. So it's very strange for us. I mean, it's sort of like intensely. Each one has got a little bit of, you know, a little space of its own sort of thing, and blah blah blah, and it's really nauseating sometimes because that can take 6 months to work through, and then sometimes it will just be half an hour. So there's no reason to it really, to me, other than just it's when we write songs, it tends to be about a period of time, and each song and whatever is going on with us at that moment ends up in the song, whether we want it to or not. It's there, and that's what we have to do in order for us to be happy with it. So, you know, recording is about, for us, is about it's not just the music. It's whatever was going on around us in our heads or whatever when we played it, and all the stuff that led up to it, and blah blah blah. And whenever I listen to something like any particular song, if you sat me down, I don't just remember the song. I just remember why and where we were and how bloody long it took to get there. You know.
We did this great series of interviews with some people in Japan a couple of weeks ago, and the translator was saying how that the standard answers that bands give is like about talking about the music is that, well, we have a series of riffs and we got these riffs together and stuff. So
and it's escapism.
We thought we should do that, shouldn't we?
Yeah, it's we were sitting there, man, and we were riffing, and we got this great new guitarist, man, and he's great, and yeah, so we were riffing away.
Did I tell you I've been to rehab recently?
Yeah,
and things like that.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, I'm an ex-junkie. Yeah. So there you go.
So this is our model answers for the
So
rest of the year. I think.
Yeah.
Hello.
Do the hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi. We're Radiohead.
Hello.
Hello.
And this is the hello. Hello.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. This was Radiohead. Bye.
Rizla.
Tartan. There's the word, because for some reason a lot of places we recorded in had tartan carpets.
Clutch.
Kevin.
Is quite good.
Kevin's good.
Yeah, Kevin.
Was good.
Oh, I'm sticking with
Yeah. Okay. No, I can't have that one, can
Okay.
I? Cash point.
It's hyphenated.
Yeah.
It's sort of one word.
That's all.
No, cash point's one word.
It's one word now. Yeah.